Netflix has brought us something truly unique with one of their shows. Thousands of different possible ways to watch it. Let's talk about Kaleidoscope. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my TV review for the Netflix series Kaleidoscope. And this has been out a few weeks, but I wanted to really sit down and make sure I had the chance to watch all 8 episodes. Usually when I do a TV review, I'll watch the first 2 episodes, maybe the first 3, to kind of get a sense of the show and then grade it based on that. But this is one that is so unique in its approach. I knew that I wanted to watch the whole thing, and I'm not much of a binger, but I watched 4 episodes one day, 4 episodes the next day, so I wanted to make sure I took the time to do that. So anyway, before we launch into the specifics of this show and even really what makes it so unique, I want to welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding my video. Got a ton of great stuff on the channel here, posting videos just about every day. Please consider subscribing down below. Would love to have you there. But comment too. Did you get to watch Kaleidoscope? In what order did you watch it? And what does that even mean? We'll get to here in a second. But, go ahead and like this video as well. That helps the channel out too. So, all right, Kaleidoscope, something very, very, very different. It's never been tried before on a streaming service, and we'll explain all of that in a second. But Eric Garcia is the mastermind behind this, and you may not know his name. I sure didn't, but he created this, and he wrote a few of the episodes. He might have directed 1 or 2 as well, but you might know his work because he wrote the novels for Matchstick Men, which ended up becoming the Ridley Scott film with Nicolas Cage. He also screenwrote the 2010 film Repo Men with Leah Shriver and some others. So you may be familiar with some of his work, and you certainly know the main star of this, which is Giancarlo Esposito from his work in the Vince Gilligan universe of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. But he's currently starring on The Boys as well. He's in The Mandalorian. I mean, this guy is having a moment, right? The last couple of years have all been, he's been involved in a ton of hit shows. But you've also got Paz Vega in this, Rufus Sewell, Jai Courtney, and a few others as well. But none of that really matters so much as what makes this so unique. So I mentioned that there are thousands of different ways to watch this series, and that is true. So what Netflix has done, along with Mr. Garcia here, is figured out a way that you can watch this show in any order. You can take the episodes, and it is about a heist. I'll say that, right off the bat. Basically, Leo Papp is the ringleader of this crew. He's played by Esposito, and they are attempting this huge $7 billion heist. But over the course of the show, we see a lot of betrayal, greed, and other things undermining his power play and, in fact, the heist on the whole. So each episode takes place at a different time period, either before the heist or after the heist, or the final episode, which it doesn't have to be the final episode, but it is designed to sort of be the final, is episode White. They're all color-based episodes with the titles. And that is the day of the heist. That is designed to be last. There are thousands of combinations with the other 7 episodes mixing and matching, and then White is last. Or if you want to watch White in whatever order as well, that jumps to tens of thousands of combinations to watch this. And what is unique about it is each person gets a different order to watch this in. And the reason I even know that, I looked it up, but, I had to prove it to myself. I was at my brother's house when I watched this. I was babysitting over the weekend, his kids, and his Netflix had a completely different order. I looked on my phone, on my Netflix, completely different order than what was on my phone. So I watched the order they gave him, because I was, watching it on his big TV, and that was red, which is the day after the heist, yellow, 6 weeks before the heist, blue, 5 days before the heist, orange, 3 weeks before the heist, green, 7 years before the heist, violet, 24 years before the heist, and then pink, 6 months after the heist. And then I watched the heist episode, the White episode. And what I thought was interesting about this order is it's kind of bookended with the things after the heist. The only two episodes after the heist are red and pink, and that's what bookends it. And then in the middle, it's all jumbled up. But the order I got on my phone, on my app, was completely different. I don't even remember what it was. But so here's the thing. Regardless of what I thought of this show, which we'll get into that here in just a second, I'm not going to fail this show. I never was going to fail this show because I automatically sort of bump up a little bit for anything that is just completely unique, something we have never seen before. Some of the examples I can think of is Hardcore Henry, that movie where it was in first person the whole time. It was like a first person shooter video game type of thing. The movie itself was okay, but that was something very unique. Boyhood is another example. The movie that they filmed, a few days at a time, every year for 12 years or something, I think is what it was. That was something very unique. Now, that turned out to be a great movie too, but in any event, this is automatically sort of bumped up a little bit for the concept. Now, let's talk about the execution of the concept, because that is where this falters a little bit. Here's the problem, and here's what they actually did very successfully, but I think it does create a little bit of a negative. To be able to watch this show in any order, most dramas or action shows or whatever, or comedies, really, any show, you're building up the characters as we go. We're getting to know the characters, through a linear way that the producers and the writers and the director have figured out. Okay, this is when we want you to know this about this character. With this, any episode could be the first one that you watch, right? So the creators and the writers had to figure out ways to sort of make the characters pop in their own ways, but not necessarily, well, and they do reference things from other episodes too, but not necessarily, again, in a linear fashion. So it can't be too uberly specific on, okay, this person, did this to me. No, we have to speak more in kind of vague tones. And I think that benefits certainly the method of watching each episode in a different order, but I think it does hinder the story a little bit because it does make it a little bit more generic. We do get to know these characters, but maybe not as well as we might have in a different fashion. But one real positive with that is that every character seems well formed enough. Like, as I was watching, because I know I was going to review it, as I was watching each new episode and they would introduce one of the characters for the first time in that episode, I would think, okay, if this was the first episode I watched of the series, what would I think about this character? And it's impossible, of course, to know for sure, but I think they did a really, really good job here of filling us in enough about who these people are. They basically have to reintroduce the characters every episode, but in a way that doesn't seem monotonous, and they succeeded at that. I really was, there was maybe 2 episodes where I was like, oh, if this was the first episode, I'm not sure how much I would have wanted to continue. But 5 of the other episodes were really, powerful episodes in terms of the action, in terms of the character development, in terms of what I already knew and adding to it. But I wonder, if I had started with one of those lesser episodes, the 2 I didn't really care for were sort of back to back, I think. Was it maybe 5 days before and 6 weeks before the heist? I think it was episodes 3 and 4 that I watched. So, they were sort of, a little bit of a dip. But then the last 4 I watched, on that second day when I binged, it was like they were all really good. One issue with this is the ending, and we don't do spoilers here on new shows, but the episode, I think, is going to be very, very divisive, the White episode, in how the heist is presented and how things go down. Let's just say that. That's all I'll really say. For me, it was okay. White was certainly not the best of the episodes, but it was, the episode of the heist. So you could go back and watch this, all over again in a completely different order. Or I think what a lot of people are doing, maybe if they watch it a second time, is doing it chronologically. So they start with 24 years before the heist and they end with 6 weeks after the heist, or whatever it is, or 6 months after the heist. And let's move now briefly to the acting. Giancarlo Esposito, I mentioned his resume of late. He is, I think, a really unsung actor. He doesn't do a ton of different things with his range. Like, I don't see him doing a ton of comedy, but he could actually do like some sort of deadpan, like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Andre Brower kind of comedy. I could see him doing that. Because he really excels at everything. He's always special to watch on the screen. Everybody around him, kind of varies, at different degrees. I like Paz Vega in this a lot. Jai Courtney, I've never really cared for him. Every time he shows up, he always just seems like a dumb jock kind of guy, and he's usually playing some sort of bad guy. Here, whether his character is good or not within the confines of the team, he's doing a $7 billion heist. He's maybe not the most upstanding member of society. So, but yeah, it's interesting to see kind of how they interweaved all of those characters within the framework of being, open to watching any episode in any order. And I think it's very unique. It's something that only a streamer could do, because obviously if they're airing this on TV, you have to watch it in the order it's presented, or even on a DVD, you're not going to necessarily jump around. You're going to watch it in the order it is. But with Netflix being able to give every single person a different order, obviously there's going to be some repeats out there, but the fact that, mine and my brother's things were completely different, I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. Like, I wasn't sure. I don't think any of maybe one episode was in the same place. But, so yeah, look, this is a series I would like to see continue with a different plot going forward. A different set of people, different actors. Make it an anthology series where, each season or whatever is a different thing. But I really like this idea of everybody kind of watching it in a different order and getting a different sort of storyline out of it. It's almost like a choose your own adventure in that way. So I leave Kaleidoscope with a B-. I think some negatives for sure, but definitely very, very cool in concept. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Dan Reviews It. Bye.